Hi there, and welcome to Graeme Guide. Let's try that again. Hi there, and welcome to Graeme's Guide Friday Live, this Friday, the 15th of December. Yes, when I make a mistake, it's not getting edited out. What you see is what you get. Yeah, let's get straight into it, because as I've said before, I'm easily distracted. So today I want to talk about the short answer questions that you're going to be writing for assignment 2. And I haven't actually provided guidance on writing short answer questions before. We put a lot of guidance on the content that you should put into your answers of assignment 2. Did I say assignment 4? Anyway, assignment 2. But we don't talk a lot about the structure. Well, actually, let's just go, speaking of structure, let's go into the discussions, and I'm going to go to the assignment 2 Q&A, and into group 7. Okay, now when I speak about we don't provide much structure, actually, if you scroll down, I have given some fairly specific guidance on suggested structure. And I have suggested, and I've talked about this before, that you break it into 4 sections, section 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each of those sections about 400 words. The word limit for this assignment is 1,500 words. And where I've said here about 400 words for each section, well, that comes to 1,600 words, which is within the plus or minus 10%. So it's better to write a little bit above the required word count rather than write less than the word count, because that's more opportunity to make another point and get extra marks. So I would suggest writing somewhere between 1,500 and 1,650 words. And that's within your safety zone of 10 plus or minus 10% of the word count. 10% in this case being 150 words. Just thought I'd mention that for those who are mathematically challenged. I'm one of those people who are mathematically challenged, so there we go. Anyway, so like on my agenda today, I talk about writing clearly and concisely using coarse language, not coarse as in C-O-A-R-S-E, which would be swearing. I'm talking about coarse language as in language from our course, and also functional language. So I've added some information here to help you, and I've titled it, provided the heading here, writing clearly, precisely, and succinctly, which is exactly what I don't do when I'm recording these videos. Anyway, so in answer to write, with these short answer questions, if you're going by the suggested structure that I've said here, 4 sections, then within each of those 4 sections, you would create 1 or 2 paragraphs. And I say that because in each of these, like for example, in this first section, section 1, it says identify an ethical problem, and the stakeholders, and an explanation of the effects. Well, for me, I would spend 200 words discussing the ethical problem or the ethical issue, and then another 200 words identifying the stakeholders. So in this case, I can see that there's 2 paragraphs there. For if I was responding to this, that's how one of the ways that I might respond to it. So with that in mind, I've said here to plan the structure of each answer or paragraph, and so that should include your main point, which will be the answer to the question. So in the case of the paragraph on the ethical issue, right up front, well, your first sentence might be an introductory sentence, such as, I'm responding to this case scenario, and in this case scenario, there is a teacher and he comes upon this ethical issue. Then that's all you need. You don't need to provide a summary of the case scenario. You have a limited word count. So writing a summary of the case scenario, retelling the story, is using up your word count. So make sure that when you let us know what scenario you're responding to, just make that a sentence or two, just as I've said there. For example, I'm responding to this case scenario. In the scenario, the lead character, so-and-so, is faced with this ethical issue. And then you can go on and you can define your terms. So you would line up that ethical issue you've found with your code of ethics. So you find a code of ethics. In that code of ethics, it might talk about perhaps conflict of interest. So that's a term, conflict of interest. So you might define that term. The ethical issue is a conflict of interest. In the code of ethics, it states that a conflict of interest is this, this, and this. And then you add your supporting ideas and examples. Within the scenario, the lead character, an example of the lead character conflict of interest is blah, blah, blah. You need to make connections. You can make more than one connection between the ethical issue, providing the example, and the code of ethics. So you're making connections between your example and the code of ethics, and then you'd finish up by restating your answer. As I have shown here, the ethical issue was such and such, blah, blah, blah. Then you would go on to your second paragraph in section 1. In addition to the key character, there are other stakeholders. The other stakeholders include, then name 2 or 3 of the key stakeholders, and if you want to, you can name other stakeholders which may not be as close to the ethical issue. For example, there may be a community. You might want to say the community is a stakeholder, or other students are a stakeholder, or whatever you brainstorm with those stakeholders, then you can mention those stakeholders. And then make sure you mention how they're affected, because it says here, identify the ethical issue, the stakeholders, and an explanation of the effects. So if you mention the community as a stakeholder, explain how the community is affected by this ethical issue. Yeah, that's what you need to do. So that's a way of writing clearly, precisely, and succinctly by using that little plan. I've also suggested here to use functional language. So when you provide your example of the ethical issue, you might want to say, use functional language such as this, where you can say, this results in, or this point is significant because blah, 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 or what this means is blah, blah, blah. And for those who are wondering, blah is spelled B-L-A-H. No, you would put in your own content there. I'm not going to tell you what content you need to write. I'm just providing you with some guidance on how you might write clearly, precisely, and succinctly. That's probably as much as I need to cover in this video today. We're coming into consolidation week, so I'm wishing everybody safe travels if you're traveling over the break, and we'll catch up on the Monday of week 7, which is the 2nd of January. Thanks for joining me for Friday Live today, and from me, it's bye for now.